Hey guys, can everyone hear me? Just pop a bit in the chat if you guys can hear me. Hello? Yep, great. Cool. Well, hey guys, and welcome to part 3 of the live stream. I thought I would just go over a quick recap over what we've covered so far. Basically, this is a quite dynamic shot based around Spider-Man, and it's heavily inspired by Sony's new Spider-Man that's coming out in December, I think it said. So it's very, very stylized, and it's got quite a lot of creative input. So it's all based on 2s and 4s, and it's got some crazy keys in there. A lot of smearing, very cartoony. So yeah, I thought that was quite inspirational. So I've been working on that, and I can show you where we've got to so far. I haven't actually touched it so much since our last stream, only a tiny bit, because there was a particular part of the shot I wanted to show you guys. So I'll just go through that now. If you guys have any questions along the way, don't hesitate, just fire away. I'll try and keep on it as much as I can. So, just so you know what I've done extra since our last stream, we left off just around here, and just about to come around the swing is where the last stream left off. And since then, I've added in the roll, the webcast, the swing down, and then he makes contact with the taxi, and then he starts to swing. The bit we're going to cover today is going to be this part where we punch in, and we have this slightly half slow motion shot where he kind of swings round, and then we're going to leave off hopefully around here if we get enough done. Fingers crossed we can get through it all. So yeah, I've just set up on the timeline. Oh, I've just torn that up accidentally. Come back. It's not coming back. There we go. Right, cool. So the reason I wanted to go over this particular part is because it's the slightly slower motion that we've got for the whole thing, and I think it would be quite nice for you guys just to see the change in rhythm, because what we have so far has been quite fast and it's quite whipping around, and yeah, it's quite cartoony. So I thought it'd be quite nice, yeah, to see this kind of ease in. And it's quite an interesting one for beats, and I think beats are really, really important when it comes to animation, just because you need to, everything needs to have its key moment. If nothing reads properly, then it might as well, yeah, it's not working. So what I shall do, just so you know, I work in Tween Machine, so it's quite, yeah, it's heavily using Tween Machine, and it's all going to be on 2s, some of it on 1s, and maybe a 3 here and there. By that, I just mean it's going to have these keys, so every 2 frames, it's usually going to have a new pose. But it's all using Tween Machine, so it's just easing into your next one. And so I can show you the keys I've got at the moment. So he gets pulled by his arm, and as he's thrown, oh, there's an extra key there. This is where I've accidentally got clumsy and realised there's some keys added. So yeah, he starts to reveal what is the side mirror of the taxi. I know it's still there at the moment, but I mean later on I'll fix that. So he comes up, and then he realises, he's like, huh? And then he swings round and comes back around again. So I just need to start deleting keys where I've accidentally, you can see when I delete that nothing's changed. That's just an accident. I think there's one there, and again there. one there. This is where I've just been slowing things down for timing and keys have been added accidentally, but we don't need any of this stuff. There's a changing key. There's one there. There's one there. Not one there. That comes around. Cool. I think that's okay now. Yeah, cool. Okay, I've got a question already. How do you manage the master control on the other hand and feet controls? Their placement, how they're displaced when the master moves. So the way I have this set up is I have a temporary ball here, which I've animated first, and then I've constrained the global control of the rig, the Spider-Man rig, onto this. That way it's always tracking space, and then I don't have to worry about where everything is staged because it's already planned out. So then all I would have to do is grab hands and feet and then move them around and just track my arcs and just go from pose to pose, almost as though it's not even moving, if that makes sense. So I'm taking away one of the elements, so I just have to worry about my poses and how they're moving between them, rather than where he is in screen. I think, yeah, cool. So let's just start getting straight into it. So we have this big stretch, and I don't want you to see that for too long, because that's going to be our like extreme pose. We can zoom in on this. And then he comes up. I'm gonna actually try and hide the environment. Yeah, that's better. We can actually see what we're doing now. So he pulls, and then the next frame, so just one across, I'm going to hit I on my keyboard, which is 50% on Tween Machine. This is just how I have it set up. Now you can see we've got quite a lot of weird twisting going on. So this is where I've actually not planned it properly, because I added the swing and the contact to the taxi first, or later, sorry. And so, yeah, I'm going to get some weird elements, but what I can do, since it's only over one frame, I can literally hit 100% onto the second pose here, and then we can just tweak this one and bring these arcs around. So I'm just tracking everything now. I think that's not going to be so bad. Now, since I had this pose, I can actually come out of it into this one. The only downside to having such a crazy camera move is obviously where he is in space, and I'm having to try and fit my camera so that I can see the poses coming around, because we got this big punch in. I thought I had a block of cheese. Oh yeah, he does look like he's holding a block of cheese. I'm going to make that a lot more clear, and you're going to see how later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and hit 50%. If I'm going to hit the whole rig, hit 50%. And so we're going to get this flowing motion coming around now. But it's going to start slowing right down around here. It's actually, I'm going to turn the environment on just because it's really hard to see where everything's going. Yeah, I can see a bit better now. So, as we're punching in, I was going to have these big 2D graphics and everything. So, around here, I'm going to select everything again, hit 50%. Because at the moment we're just easing into this pose. We just want it to be a clear, nice arc. So I'm just going to bring that round. And I'm going to hit O here, which is 33 of an ease into the next pose. That way I'm just getting a nice arc coming round. And he's not actually looking at the mirror. There we go. So it would be quite nice, actually, since we've got this pull here, to keep that pull going, because we haven't lost momentum at the moment. and then I can hit 50% here, and then bring that round. We get this nice curve going through. In my college we were taught to use gimbal rotation in order to avoid gimbal lock. Funky rotations in spline mode. You seem to use world rotation. So how would you deal with the possibility of strange rotations later on? That's a good question. So since I tend to work consistently on 2s, if there is some weird gimbal, because I already have everything keyed, there's going to be very little room for it to gimbal lock, and if there is one strange element, I'll cheat it, you could say, and I'd literally, if it was between these 2 frames here, I'd literally just hit back to the previous pose and then just eyeball that 1 frame and just make sure everything matches, which, to be honest, as long as it's not too big a move, you shouldn't need to change too much anyway. It's not the most efficient way to fix these things, but since you're using such thorough keys, it's not so bad. So, quite a big one. Oh yes, that's a good... You can use the Euler filter and it fixes a lot of weird rotations. That is true. So, if you don't know where that is, I'll just quickly grab over the graph editor. If you select your keys or whatever it may be, and you go into curves, there's the Euler filter here. And that kind of figures out where the weird rotations are, and will try and fix all of the gimbal locking that you've got going on. Doesn't always work, but I'd say 60% of the time it does. So the one important part for this part I want to get is, because it might be quite hard to register that this is the side mirror of the taxi, so I wanted to have this extra beat in here where we actually see him looking back towards the taxi, so he's like, what? Is that where that came from? So as he comes up, I want to, maybe around frame 40, I think might be enough time, so I'm just going to hit another key. So I'm just going to keep easing in now. So I just literally hit the same key, and then I've gone back to this one and hit O, so we're now still easing in. And then we can start to ease out of this ease in. Does that make sense? So we were easing into this one, but now we can start to take things away from that, so that we're going into the next one, so you get this like big organic movement. So around here, because this is all going to be slow, I'm just going to hit 50% halfway between these 2 keys, so that way his body is still going to be following that motion, but his actual reaction, I'm going to twist his head so he's like, huh? Is that where that came from? And just so we make it a little clearer, I'm just going to drop his hand. And now I've got to try and track these arcs as well on the feet. It is quite a tough thing to do when you've got such a big move, but I'm going to do my best just to get a cool arc coming round. So he looks there. I think we need to drop that shoulder because we're not reading. It'd be nice to get a nice silhouette on his chin here, because this background is going to change quite a lot once it's rendered. I'm going to go for this big like pop art, like 2D section. It's kind of in the style of what they were going with at Sony, which was really cool. So it'd be nice to get some of that in there as well. And just to feel a bit more motion, we can always bring a second arc to introduce into the hand. I'm just going to fix that because I'm not reading that too well. What have we got? Do you ever use time warp, or do you work out the timing, even slow motion, with your keys? I work out with my keys. I don't know what time warp is. You'll have to let me know what that is. I have no idea. Sorry about that. But yeah, definitely happy to learn new things. So since we've got a previous pose now on the head and chest, I thought it would also be quite funny if we have this beat where he's still kind of looking at the taxi. So as he's coming round, he's going to be like, huh? But then this other hand is still going to be like, have its purpose. So he's thinking of two things at once, basically. Where he's thinking, where did that come from? But I've got to also, he knows what he's doing. He's still web slinging. So he's going to have this extra beat where I'm now going to start coming round. I'm going to counter with the elbows. Oh, it's going slow. Just going to save that. Also, last session you said you were using a blend of spline and stepped. Is that just the camera, or are you going to spline? I'm actually going to spline some of it. So the really fast movements are going to be splined, and then when it has, so there was a bit earlier where he swings over this one of these poles, and then he comes up. Since that's a slower build up, I was going to keep that on 2s, but some of the early parts of the shot I was going to start splining, just because it's very fast. So we're going to start to ease in now. Feet going round. It's just like, sorry, it's hard to read so many questions at once. How do you actually select the right part to move? I can't see that you're picking any. Oh, I use a picker. Sorry, I didn't realize. I have a picker on another screen, so I've got 2 monitors here. You can see I explained in previous streams. So there's a channel box. I tear off my channel box, so that's where you have like your translations, rotations. I have that on this side, and then I have a perspective here, so I'm grabbing like the knees and everything. I have Tween Machine down here, and then I have graph editor down this corner, and then I have a picker here. So I don't usually, I mean I can turn them on and off here, but I don't usually select controls like this. Just, it's a lot more intuitive for me, and it's a lot faster to use a picker. The rig doesn't come with one, I just made one myself, but I mean, once you've made one, you know how to make them again. It's not too difficult. So I'm just painting this arc coming around now. And I'm still not reading. I want to get quite a nice bend in the arm. I'm just going to go into world space, which is on my other side, so you're going to see me doing stuff off camera now. Just want to get that bend. There we go, that's better. Because we want to see this beat where the main thing that's moving is the hand. So we want everything else to be moving quite slowly. And then he's going to go... And then he's going to... Sorry, he's going to sling his web over here. What else have we got? Also last session you said, oh no, I've read that one. How do you actually select the right part to move? Also, are you using exclusive FK or IK controls? So I'm using IK for this because it's all in world space. The only times I would use FK is if I wanted to do like a concave curve. Sorry, that's quite hard to say. What I mean by that is if I want to like break the rig for one frame where I would actually snap the forearm backwards, just so you get like, you feel the energy as it's coming around. That's the only time I'd use FK, because that's quite hard to achieve with IK. But I usually use IK, and I'd set that to root space. That way if I'm nudging things around on the roots, then the hand's going to follow that, and it kind of already creates arcs for you. And then you build on top. What else have we got? It's just like a global kind of control to adjust your timing in the scenes, I imagine. Yeah, sorry. Cool. Sorry, this is quite a slow-paced one. It's just hard listening to everyone at the same time. So around here, I want to have this beat where we're going to ease out now. We're easing out of this pose, but we're going to snap this hand straight away. So it's going to, and then it's going to fire its web. I'm just going to make sure the hand is also doing that pose. And it's quite nice to get that like flick. So now that's snapped into position, and then the wrist is going to fire the web. Now this is going to be quite tricky because I also kind of want him to throw the side mirror just off the bridge, because I thought that'd be quite funny. So I'm going to also partly and slowly antic that as well, and ease out with this foot. So you want to break up the timing as much as you can. And this is why I thought this is a really important thing to show, because beats is really important. We don't want anything to be moving too much because we want to see this. This is our main priority right now. But also we don't want to stop things moving because we've got a fairly limited time to do everything else. So I'm going to hit O on that foot here. So now we're easing out again. And we're actually firing at this lamppost here, I think. It's quite hard to remember where everything is in space, but I'm pretty sure that's where that was. I think that's why I had it bend down there. And I've got some weird things going with the elbows. I think it's because it's stretched too much. Let's just check my... yeah, it's really stretched. So I'm just putting it back in space now. That's really frustrating. Hold on. Don't want to have that. There we go. We were getting some weird like bend going on in the elbow. We don't want that. So we're still going to read that flick. There we go. Now we're aiming at this lamp. That's a bit better. And again, I'm just going to hit back 100% on that. That way we're not getting that weird bend. Hopefully you guys know what I mean. I'm not just making things up. And then since we've already anticipated that hand, we can now start to bring over this arc here and throw this. And at the same time, everything is still slowly coming around. I think I've got another question. No? No, we don't. Cool. So now I'm going to start, now that I've got my main beats in place, I'm going to start to add some more in-betweens. So again, I can just hit on a 2 here, just ease in. Now we're easing out. So I'm just going to hit 50% here. But I want to have a quick take for Spidey looking at the taxi where he's just like, huh? So I'm going to hit P, which is 75%. That way he's going to quickly turn. And I might just use the nudge tool and hold Alt and then press the arrow keys. And then that nudges and things in screen space. It's really useful for subtle things. I'm just going to bend that. So I'm just figuring out the timing as I'm pressing things now. So it's just, I'm just using Tween Machine to get all this done. I'm going to hit O here. That way we're easing into this now. And then we're going to come out. Do you see? So we're getting this kind of shape. It's quite a complex arc, you could say. So it comes round, comes in, and then we're coming round and out again. And then it's going to come up and sling the web. So in these parts, we're just going to hit hit 50% again, 50%, 50%. Because when it's slow motion like this, you don't really, it's just everything slowly softening. But you can see I've got some weird sticks here now. So I just need to select the hips and the legs. And hit 50%. There we go, that's feeling smoother. This is an area where I will start play blasting more, because I know guys have asked that in the past. Where they're like, why don't you play blast? I haven't seen you play blast anything. And that's usually because I'm quite attuned with my timing, just through practice. But there are times where it's a bit more situational, in a case like this where I would actually need to start play blasting things because I want to just make sure my beats are reading. So that was stretched there, so I'm going to hit 50 there, 50 there. So we're just getting a little bit more volume. It's really subtle, but hopefully you're going to feel that. Hey Aaron, did you do the layout for the scene as well? Love the camera work. Yeah, I did. Thanks very much. So I did it all together. So when I did my bouncing ball, I also did the camera at the same time, so I treated them together. I go a bit more in depth in that in previous live streams. I think that was in part 2 I talked about that, so if you want to check that out, then by all means, because it is pretty useful to listen to. So I'm just going to hit 50% here, because we've got in between its 2 keys. But now that we've eased out of the hand, that's going to start easing. And now I'm going to start flattening off this elbow for this one in between. And then that means on this one I can snap into this, because we want to read that beat where he's held, he's just like, oh, something's happening, and then he swings, then he slings his hand, whereas everything is still slowly softening. And again, on this frame, I'm going to hit back on the head. So by back I mean I'm just going to go back to the previous frame, because I want him to still be looking at taxi. So I'm just going to track his head here. So he's come down, and then I'm just going to soften a little rotation. And then hit -100. So now his head's locked in that position. So here we've got another key that we can fill in. So you can see like all these arcs. I mean, I will go back in and start cleaning this stuff up later, but for the most part it's quite smooth. So this is kind of an ugly shape, to be honest, but I'm only considering this my in-between. This is my breakdown for this hand. So on this pose I can now hit P, which means I'm favouring the next pose, and I do the same for the elbow, because we want to hold this wrist. I'm just going to make that line more simple. So I'm just tracking everything now. So you can see I'm flicking between keys a lot, just because that's kind of like my play blast, you could say. I'm literally just flicking between the keys that I've already put down. Now this is going to be quite interesting, because I feel like that needs to come round a little first before, because at the moment we're pulling this antic at the same time as we're flicking this, so I don't really want to do that so much. I want that to come after, and it can be quite a fast movement because he's just going to throw it. So we have a small antic here, and that can come down. Now around here, Just to keep it even, I'm going to shift that across to an even key, and I can hit O. Well, I'm going to hit 50 again, sorry. 50%. And then I'm going to hit O on the hand, because we still want to favour that. And now that I'm tracking this, it'd be nice to ease into this arc. So we're breaking up that timing, so we have a slower antic. We build into the antic and then we fling around. So it comes in. Gonna favour. Ooh, thank you, Richard. You're a genius. See, this is one problem that I do when I'm live streaming. I completely forget to save. It's really bad of me. You've taken over Bader's duty. So here, I'm going to hit... So this is the only like hiccup you could say in my technique, which is now I can't hit 50% because I'd like to keep it on 2s. So since I can't use my hotkeys for this, I would go for like a -10 instead of a 0. If you look on Tween Machine, like 0 it comes to 50%. So I'm gonna have to hit to like a 10 here. -10. That way we're still got that smooth motion going on. So it's gonna flick here. And since this is a quick motion now, I might just snap. Now we can take away that frame later. I'll snap into it now. I can hit P. See, now you see we're getting that whip on the hand. But since we can do something quite interesting with this, I'm going to smear the fingers just for this one frame. So I'm just going to nudge everything up. I'm probably going to get some weird results going on, but I can clean a lot of this up. It's mainly those middle ones that aren't working at the moment, so I'm just going to hit that. There we go. So we're just getting that stretch and then it's going to flick in. So hopefully that's also going to help us read the web sling, because on this frame we're now going to start shooting the web. So I'm going to select everything and now I'm going to hit 50%. And then on this hand I can hit P, which is 75%, so we're easing straight into that pose now. Can you see? So it's only that one frame, we're just going to go whoosh. It's like a whip. Again, this is something I mentioned in one of the previous sessions. It's quite easy to describe something just by sound effects. It's the easiest way to explain something to someone who's not animating it. So I'm just keeping everything clean. So you see he pulls up, he looks at the taxi, has his beat, and then goes whoosh, and then now he's gonna throw. I'm gonna save that again. And now we've got an odd key here, which we don't need. Make that an even. And again, since we've got 2, we can't hit 50% on this key, so it'd be an odd key. So go back to 1, go slightly less than 50%, just because if I hit 50%, then we're going to get slight different spacing, and it's not going to be as clean as we'd like it to be. So now, since we've got that beat for the hand, we've got 2 different beats going on. That's why I thought it's quite a tricky one. So he's looking, he flings that one, and now we're going to start easing out of this hand to throw. Yeah, to throw the side mirror. And I'm starting to paint an arc coming around this side now. I really wish there was a control to stretch the feet so I can create this nice curve, but I mean I'll do that in 2D after in the end. Cool. I think that's working. because now we're going to have this webcasting, so we've already got that beat. Hopefully it all reads. I couldn't tell you if it's actually going to work. This is kind of experimental. And it's just a lot of retweaking until it feels right. No, I'm not going to do that. I was thinking of having him look at the side mirror as he does it, but I think if I just have one stick frame like that, where his head just goes, he looks, and then he continues his motion, I think that's going to be fine. See, he's already thrown it now. I've kind of half animated the side mirror just so I know where everything's going. That's more of like a storytelling moment. So I thought that was quite important. So we select everything. So now we've got something quite weird going on. And I've got to try and figure out why this is happening. So we're starting to have some rotation going on now. And so since I don't want to snap into it straight away, I'm going to start slowly softening. I think it's also because the camera's starting to ease out. That's probably why we're getting that. But hopefully when I start blending through, we can tweak it anyway. Yeah, the stick frame is like a little hold. So I just so we have that extra frame, or in this case 2 frames, just to read him with this intention, and then he continues around. When I say stick frame, these aren't like technical terms that people use in industry. These are just things that I randomly make up because they make sense to me. But I'm sure people would, you know, it's a pretty intuitive thing to say. So I'm sure it wouldn't be too big a deal. People would know what you meant. So I'm just making sure that's still tracking. And then on this frame, I'm going to hit 50%. And we're going to start breaking up this timing now. So I actually want to start bending that wrist back slightly. Oh. I know this looks a little broken, but we're going to make sure it works. We'll fix it. And then we're going to flick that across. I'll contract the side mirror later. If I really want, I can just do that. Yeah, so we're still tracking that. And since we have that energy, we'd still like to get a little bit of follow through. We're going to overshoot that hand slightly. So that's going to make this arc now, so it's coming back round. Which will make it quite a nice arc coming round. You can see we're starting, he's coming up randomly on this frame. I'm not entirely sure. So this is where I'm just going to slowly start eyeballing it. So he's pushing with his leg. I feel like I'm going to start easing out later with this foot. So I'm just literally going back into Tween Machine and I'm just tweaking this foot. Because you can see it was sticking too early. And I want that to feel like one consistent curve. And now we want to keep painting that curve back. Do you see what I mean, guys? So we're painting that curve coming back round now. And we might even be able to be quite cheeky and start stretching again, just using the nudge, because we're pulling that hand. I think we're doing quite well. We're near the end of it and we've still got another 20 minutes, so hey, you guys might get a bit more. So I'm just going to go into this frame now, hit 50%. Since we've had that overshoot now, we can ease out of that, and now we're sticking in. So now I can actually bring those fingers back around, because we don't want to stretch them for too long. So now I'm just nudging them back in again, because it was only for that one frame, just to feel that soften, to feel that stick as it comes around. And this is where I've got to tweak my hands again. Oh, okay, interesting. I think I've done something wrong there. Because he needs to fire a web over here. I didn't think about that. Yeah, he needs to fire over there. Oops, because now he's firing with this one. Okay, so I'm actually going to have to change quite a bit of this. Oops. That's my bad. The only problem now is we're not going to read this hand shooting across. So what I can do, I'm going to quickly try and fix this. Just bear with me, guys. I'm just going to save it before I screw something up. I'm going to bend these fingers in. See, I'm just creating a new pose now. What we did earlier, but I'm just going to delay it so that we can actually fire the web later. I need to get into world space. Bring that down. And then bring that round. Cool. Yeah, so I'm literally just going to do exactly what I did before, but we're going to do it a little later, just so we actually fire at the right post, because I'm an idiot. So when he comes, what we can do, so the way I would fix this, so we can still have this ease round, but we can just anticipate it and hold this for longer. Oh, hands as well. And if anything, that's going to give us a little bit longer, just to read when we fling this round. Yeah. So we're gonna easing around with that elbow now. And then hopefully when I start coming to lighting, I can make this read a little bit longer. So we're still stretching. I know it's hard to see, guys, sorry about this. But I've stretched these fingers for this one frame. And then we're going to fire on the next one. Yeah, it's true. It's like, yeah, I guess it's quite educational for you guys to also watch me making mistakes, because, you know, none of us are perfect. These things happen all the time. So it's actually quite good for you guys just to watch me fix something. But that's where I hadn't planned this properly. So that's my own bad. And now I want to get that clavicle to come round. The only thing that's bugging me about this now is we're not reading the hand pose. Because this looks really cool like this. I guess maybe on this frame I could start to fling in. So this is where I'm just trying to like figure things out. Yeah, I think I'll do it like that. So he comes over the top. And it slings. And I'll stretch the fingers here. And then he casts up. Yeah, I think that's working a bit better. So on this frame and this hand, let's find. So we're here. Cool. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. And then on this hand, make sure it's still taut. And then I can start to bring round the hand here. Get the elbow to twist. Even though it is educational for you guys, I'm also sorry that I didn't plan this properly. So I'm going to ease out of that slower. So it's twist and then sling. Right, so can you see what I've done now, guys? So if anything, this gives me more time to read this hand coming around. And so I can set 50%, it's still coming in. Yeah, I think that's quite nice now. See, it takes a lot of adjustments. This is just trial and error. You try something, doesn't work, you realise you've done a mistake. And now we also want to have a beat for this hand as well. I also want to make sure that Spider-Man himself is looking at the right lamppost, so it's actually more screen left. And we can pull his head back, because that really pushes the emphasis of when he casts. We can throw his head back first, then we're feeling that energy. So you're anticipating this beat by having an extra beat for the head first. Does that make sense? But it's a small beat. So you've got a smaller beat to anticipate the bigger beat. I just really got some questions. I wonder if it's a good case for making thumbnails out of the entire act beforehand. Yes, it's true. It was kind of like I had ideas as I was going along, and so I mean, if I wasn't live streaming right now, I probably would have sat down and I do draw thumbnails for my breakdowns and I figure out everything. But in this case, obviously, because I'm with you guys, I just have to kind of think on the spot, and thankfully it works. But yes, usually I would thumbnail. What else have we got? I think it's harder when you have to put this down and come back to it later after working on other stuff. Yeah, it's true. I think once you're used to TV animation, you know especially on a show you're familiar with, you kind of get used to what's required for a shot, and you can still do some nice stuff without having to think too hard about it, whereas a shot like this is so technical that it takes quite a bit more thought. So I'm just overlapping the fingers there. I might actually snap those a bit faster and make these fingers really straight. Just a subtle detail. Making sure this hand is coming around. No, this isn't an Anim Dojo rig. This is, I can't remember his name. I'll have to, maybe in the next announcement in the body of it or something, I'll send a link to the rig. I can't remember what his name is. But no, it's just a free rig online. It's actually quite good. Sorry? Yeah, Kel Figgins. That's the one. Yeah, it would be cool to see my thumbnail processor. I didn't actually thumbnail for this because I used Pinterest, which you can see in one of the other live streams. I just showed an example of the thumbnails I was using. So, since this is quite important, I want you to still read that hand as he's going to fire his web. So his hand comes here. And then we're easing out here. So I'm going to put that there and just hit 50%. So I'm going to have to sculpt this one a bit more. I do actually thumbnail a lot, guys, so I would definitely encourage it. Especially for TV stuff, it's good to just get your ideas out quite quickly. You don't have to be like polished drawings, just anything, as long as you know what it is. It's not for anyone else. It's not supposed to be a piece of art that you're going to put, you know, in your portfolio. It's just for you to work from. So keep it loose. And yeah, if you can figure out your breakdowns from that kind of stuff or your key poses, then it's brilliant. It will help you a lot in the long run. It makes a massive difference. Going to other hands now. I just wanted to make sure those fingers were clear. So we've got this broken leg at the moment. I just need to fix that up. Just get into world space. I think it's that way, yeah. So it's like that. So I'm just tracking this foot now because he was getting a little bit broken. Can you see here? So I just want to make sure I'm keeping that clean. There we go. That's feeling a bit more clean now. It's pretty. I can already see something where I'm going to have to do a lot of fixing later. But I think that's going to be okay. Just going to save that in Play Blaster, and then we'll see where it's got to, and then I'll answer any last questions. I'll just drag everything out. Gotta find the file. I think it's in there. Cool. Let's see what we get. Oh. Sorry, I just realised the 2D pan thing. There we go. Should be better. Cool, yeah, if there are any other questions you guys want to know, don't hesitate. Still got another 5 minutes, so yeah, I'll try and fill in as many questions as I can. So you see he springs up, then he casts a web here, swings around, then counters with a flip. I'm going to try and make all of this read even more once we go into like post-production stuff, so I'm going to start adding 2D effects and like 2D smears, and hopefully that will help track it a bit more. So I can already see a couple of hiccups here and there, but this is stuff I can clean up later, and hopefully by next session you'll have seen a difference. Cool. I think it's in here. Yeah. So let's play it back. Hopefully it doesn't look too jolty. Yeah, I think that's looking quite cool. So there's still some stuff I need to clean up, but you're getting the idea. So we've got that beat where it hands comes up, and then he fires another web. I'm actually going to make that snappier. I'll do that later on. Where he casts his web, so there's those frames just around there. I want to make that a bit faster because the throw's quite nice. He's just like, ugh. Again, I need to figure out some of that timing, but it's quite a tricky area to figure out. I'm going to try and get some nice like counter balancing stuff on the legs as well later. Just subtle, so it feels like he's still trying to catch his weight as he's being flung up, because it was an accident to some extent. He was like, whoa. Yeah, I think that's working quite well for the time being. Yeah, that's it, guys. Yeah, cheers. Do you use grease pencil to help you find nice arcs in your poses? I use a thing called BH Ghost, which I have demonstrated in previous live streams. I can quickly show you now. So you literally just hit BH Ghost and it creates a silhouette around your character, which is pretty useful, and it will stay there when you go into different frames, so it's good for just tracking your arcs and making sure your poses are going correctly. Yeah, that's what it does. Slow your scene down sometimes, which is the only disappointing part, but I mean it's really useful in the long run. Cheers. Yeah, it's really nice what you guys are saying. Hopefully it can also inspire you guys to try something dynamic. Obviously this is a very ambitious shot, and I've had quite a bit of practice in this stuff, so I wouldn't suggest trying anything like this just yet, but definitely do something where you can push yourself at the level you feel is right for you. Yeah, and try and come up with some cool dynamic stuff. Great. Hopefully I'll come back for another stream next Friday, and if not, I'll see you guys around.